You're listening to the Mobcast Network.
Now from Inverse Press.
Roadkill du jour.
In the bayou, the biker du jour is cursed by the voodoo priestess Mama Ubu to only live off roadkill. When he discovers he gains powers from the animals he consumes. Now he rides to find the soul of his murdered wife and get revenge on the witch who cursed him. Get this exciting comic written by Kevin Laporte at InversePress.com.
Roadkill du jour.
The Force is back. The rebels won't tire till they see the last of the Empire. And Kenner's there with Star Wars Return of the Jedi Collection.
I'm gonna feed you to Sarlaac bits, Skywalker.
Klaatu, Weequay, Luke Skywalker, and Lando Calrissian, each sold separately.
Prepare the plank, Weequay. Surprise, surprise, I'm Lando in disguise. Let's get out of here, Luke. Whoa, the plank is falling. Help!
Klaatu, Weequay, Luke Skywalker, and Lando Calrissian action figures, each sold separately from Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi Collection.
Action figures each sold separately presents Star Wars Sarlaac Death March.
I'm going to feed you to the Sarlaac, Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker barely heard the alien as he was marched to his execution. How could his plan go so wrong? For a brief moment, Luke considered, what if Master Yoda was right? Maybe he should have left his friends in the city in the clouds. Maybe if he had sacrificed Han and Leia, there wouldn't be all this misery, and he wouldn't know the burden of the truth. The truth. Was it the truth, or was it a lie brought forth by the dark side? Could Darth Vader be his father? As Luke was marched through the Tatooine desert, he feared he would never know the truth. His thoughts continued to be clouded by doubt and despair. Why didn't he know that the Hutt was immune to the mind trick? The young Jedi didn't heed his master's warning, and his plan was a total failure. His friend Captain Han Solo was still frozen in carbonite, forever to be a decoration in Jabba's palace. Leia, the Princess of Alderaan, was currently chained up to the Hutt, and Luke feared what horrible things the gangster was doing to her. Chewbacca was imprisoned in one of Jabba's dungeons. He had doomed his droid C-3PO and the spunky R2-D2 to a life of slavery. His new friend Lando, the man who had caught him as he fell from the weather vane in Cloud City, he hadn't seen or heard from him in months. Lando went on ahead to scout the location and bring back intelligence. Luke feared he had ran off, or perhaps Jabba executed him.
Maybe Uncle Owen should have let me go to Tashi's station.
He wondered aloud.
No talking!
Growled his Weequay escort as he hit him with a force pike. The blow caused Luke to fall to his knees, and he was quickly picked up by the other two guards, one of Jabba's lieutenants, a Nikto named Klaatu. The other he didn't recognize. He was fairly sure he was human, but he couldn't be sure because of the mask. Perhaps he was one of the many mercenaries or bounty hunters in Hutt's employ. On this journey he had heard the other two call the stranger Tamtel. Once Luke was standing stable, Klaatu turned and punched the Weequay in the face.
Jabba put me in charge, and I decide when you can hit the prisoner.
The Weequay rubbed his nose and tried to soothe his pain.
What does it matter? You said we were going to feed him to the Sarlaac.
Klaatu grabbed the Weequay by his tunic and lifted him to his feet.
Perhaps I should feed you to the Sarlaac.
The sound of the blaster prevented Klaatu from finishing his thought. The two aliens turned around to see Tamtel Skreeg with one hand on Luke's shoulder, the other with his blaster in the air.
If you two don't quit, I'll turn this execution party right around.
I wouldn't mind that.
Tamtel hit him in the face with the blaster.
What is it about no talking do you not understand?
Klaatu let the Weequay go and kicked his force pike over to him.
Pick that up. We are almost to the mighty Sarlaac.
The march had led them to a large pit, big enough to land the Falcon in easily, Luke thought. The bottom was covered in the finest sand Luke had ever seen, and it reminded him of golden silk. There was a man-made well in the center, and the young Jedi could feel something living inside there.
Prepare the plank, Weequay.
Klaatu ordered. The Weequay grumbled as he walked to the old-fashioned style wheel and crank system. He turned the crank slowly, and a dusty rock plank moved across the pit. Luke watched below, and he could hear the noises like the rumbling of an empty stomach echo from the well. Klaatu and Tamtel pushed Luke forward and marched him to the plank.
Klaatu, I need help with the lock!
The Weequay called out.
Hold him.
Klaatu ordered. Tamtel held Luke's binders as he watched Klaatu walk over to the Weequay and assist him. He then used his key to release the Jedi's cuffs. Luke was surprised.
What are you doing?
You do want to get out of here.
Tamtel replied as he pushed Luke forward and fired his blaster.
What is this? We are betrayed!
Klaatu cried out as he dove for cover.
Surprise, surprise!
I'm Lando in disguise.
Lando said as he removed his mask and tossed it off the plane. The aliens returned fire with their own holdout blasters and took chase down the plane. The Weequay was spinning his force pike, anxious to have it bite into the flesh of an enemy. Klaatu kept a few steps behind, hoping that if he needed to have cover, he could hide behind the Weequay first. He hadn't become one of Jabba's trusted men by standing in the open to get shot.
Lando! Get behind me!
Lando fired a few more shots before running past the Jedi. Luke followed him, but stopped as they reached the end of the plank. Klaatu and Weequay were halfway across the plank. Klaatu was still hiding behind the Weequay, firing his blaster. The Weequay just growled and swung his force pike angrily.
Let's get out of here, Luke.
Luke didn't answer. He was just focused on the plank. He was reaching out with the Force and recalling his lessons back on Dagobah. He had to believe. Size didn't matter. Anything was possible through the Force. He held out his hand and reflected a blaster bolt as it came for him. Lando stood amazed. He had only seen Lord Vader do that back in Cloud City, and he thought it was the Dark Lord's armor protecting him, not some mystical power. The plank began to shake, knocking aliens to their knees.
The plank is falling!
They held onto the sides for dear life but were no match for the Force. Luke's focus was unwavering and his mind clear as he clenched his fist, commanding the Force to do his bidding. The plank broke beneath them and the pair plunged into the well in the belly of the Sarlaac.
I have never seen anything like that.
Lando said as he holstered his weapon.
And I've been around the galaxy a few times.
Luke opened his eyes.
We have to go back to Jabba's palace.
Back? We can't go back. That place is crawling with Jabba's cronies.
You will come to Jabba's palace with me.
Luke looked to Lando and waved his hand lightly.
All right. You don't have to get all spooky.
Luke smiled as they made their way to rescue their friends. At least Cloud City gamblers weren't immune to the Force,
he thought.
This day might turn out yet.
Thank you for listening to the Mobcast Network. Follow us on Twitter at Mobcast Network.